SCP-093's Object Class Euclid. Testing document states that this item has no documentation as to how it was discovered and no one knows how it was contained. If procedure is broken while studying SCP-093, termination of position within the SCP Foundation is imminent. Welcome to Below the Forest Floor. My name is Nancy and I am joined today by my co-host / husband, Ryan.
Hello.
Today we are going to be discussing another SCP, and this one in particular is actually something that was suggested by Ryan.
Well, because this is actually, when we started talking about wanting to do SCPs, I wanted to do the Red Sea object because it's my favorite story.
And if you haven't heard our first episode about the SCP that is nicknamed Peanut, what was the number for it?
173, I believe.
We definitely recommend that you check it out, as it may give you a little bit more information and insight on what kind of other SCPs exist, because there's a lot of them.
I actually remember we were talking about how when we wanted to do the SCP Foundation in general, that we were going to do a podcast episode on the Foundation first, then go into the specific SCPs, but now we've done 2 specific ones and nothing on the Foundation yet. But I think that we could do that one soon.
Yeah, definitely. We will... oh no, more content. So, anyways, if you guys are curious about what exactly the SCP Foundation is, for those of you who are completely new, we will give you a little bit of an explanation as to what the Foundation is and what exactly SCPs are. So, Ryan, you can correct me if I'm wrong. This is based off my own research. The SCP Foundation is a fictional organization. That means they are not a real place. And I do have to say that because some people do ask on Google if any of this is real.
Yeah, fun fact about that. There is the top... What is it? The top search when you start typing in is SCP. The next one is going to be real, or if you just type in SCP in Google, it'll always come up on like the top searches, which is what other people search the most, which is the SCP Foundation real? Any YouTube video you find about any of the stories, there'll always be comments as like, today I learned SCP actually isn't real, or stuff like that. It came out in such a way that it was one of those creepypasta kind of things that nobody knew if it was real or not.
Yeah. You can kind of think of it almost like the Men in Black, like the movies.
Yes.
When they have all the aliens underground and in those facilities and stuff like that. That's kind of what the SCP Foundation is described as.
And going from that too, Cabin in the Woods, I learned was actually a little bit of it was inspired by the SCP Foundation.
Really?
Because of the way, like, it's kind of one of those things where it's like the chicken or the egg sort of thing, which really came first, because a lot of movies and a lot of stories have done the whole, like, underground lab of monsters sort of thing, and containment and things like that. But the SCP Foundation is kind of, you can think of it like the Cabin in the Woods part, where it's, the underground.
We don't want to say too much for anybody who hasn't seen Cabin in the Woods, because that's like a big spoiler, but we definitely recommend you watch the movie.
The movie's been out for how long?
I know, but some people... Sir, when did you watch it? And you only watched it because I asked you to watch it with me.
Well, yeah, that was just mainly because I never had the chance to watch it too, but...
Exactly. There are plenty of people who don't have that chance or don't even know it exists. If you like scary movies with a little bit of humor, this is definitely up your alley. But anyways, it is a collaborative writing project, and this project allows anyone from around the globe to participate by creating and writing about strange creatures or objects that do weird things or create anomalies.
And that's something that everybody always kind of gets wrong about, is everyone thinks that, the SCPs has to be a monster. It does not. There is more than like maybe 1/5 or 1/6 of the entire like big catalog of SCPs. It's actually not a creature, not a sentient being. It's more of like an inanimate object. Like I can't remember the number. Sorry, I have like hiccups right now. But there's one of them that I can't remember the number for, but it is a type of soda that keeps you awake without you being allowed to, like, you can't blink, basically. It's like it keeps you awake to the point where it stops your body from needing to blink for a long, long time. And it's used to help contain other SCPs like Peanut.
That's so funny that you mentioned it, because that was exactly the one I was thinking about when you mentioned it.
That's actually one of the more popular ones. It's an inanimate object, is that one, and the one we're talking about today.
Ooh, fancy. I do want to do an episode on the soda can, though. Yeah, sometime, since we did mention it in the previous episode.
Because it's not a huge story, we could try and do one on, like, a handful of the...
how it's used and what it's used with?
Well, also just the ones that are not... The ones that are helpful, the ones that are kind of used to contain others, you know, like the utility ones.
I like the one you sent me the other day. It wasn't an object, it was, what was it, 999?
Oh yeah, 999, the tickle monster.
Oh my god, that was so cute.
That one is used to help calm down really dangerous ones.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's not exactly scary, but it's...
So definitely look forward to that one. Then.
Yeah. So that's basically what the SCP Foundation is. It's not a real place. It's a collaborative writing project, and the SCP creatures and objects are not real. And some are even used to help contain other creatures and objects in this world that people have created. And actually, something that is very interesting that Ryan was telling me about earlier is what SCP stands for.
Which is Secure, Contain, Protect. So it's not like... that's the acronym for the Foundation itself, because that's what they do is they find these... SCPs, they secure them, they contain them, and then, you know, protect the world from them, basically.
Now that y'all know a bit about SCPs and what the SCP Foundation is, let's move on to the SCP-093, which is the star of tonight's episode. And Ryan, what is the, like, nickname for it again?
It is the Red Sea Object, I believe, is the actual, like, nickname that's been given to it.
Okay. Yeah, because I sometimes just... It's easier for me to remember the numbers. But yeah, that is the nickname, because I believe that's where they found it, isn't it?
Yes.
So this SCP is described as a disc-like object. The material that it is created from is some type of red stone, and it is extremely detailed. No one has been able to decipher it, but the stone disc is engraved with strange symbols and circular patterns. Now, something I did find a bit strange and interesting while reading the official description is that it is stated to fit almost any palm comfortably, but will change hue if held by a living individual, and it's dependent on the mood of the person. Now, does this hint at something, or it doesn't say person, it says individual that is living, and it makes me wonder, now, does this hint at something like that there are undead things in this world that can hold it, that have palms, or like weird things almost like Mothman that could hold this object in their hands? Because it says most palms, it didn't say people's.
And getting into the later testings and stuff, you actually find out, just for kind of foreshadowing sort of thing here, but no, it would not work for a doll or a mannequin, and it probably wouldn't work with something like the Mothman. Well, it might for that one, because it's based on the holder's regrets in their life.
So what if it's like a creature that regrets something?
If it regrets something, the color will change depending on that regret.
Interesting. Well, because I'm sure there are creatures out there that have emotions, right? And thoughts and feelings possibly in this world. Because there's the tickle monster that feels, you know.
Most of the sentient ones do have some sort of emotions to it. Like with 999, the tickle monster, it was brought in to help quell the hard to kill reptile.
Right.
The hard to kill reptile is one that is just an angry being because it can't die. So it gets tired of everything that has, tried to kill it, or that it has tried to kill itself with different things.
Oh, didn't know we were going to be taking a trip on the Feels bus today, but here we are. That one made me feel bad for it, because I was watching one of the episodes that you showed me for research, and how they just kept shooting at it to see if it would die, and it made me feel so bad that they just kept hurting it, and I was like, no.
Well, because also with that, it is part of the protect part of the slogan, because of the fact of it does kill a lot of things, so it is very dangerous. So when it breaks out, it's either, if you're not able to contain it, then you have to terminate it.
That makes me feel uncomfy. It makes me feel like today when I was playing Final Fantasy and I just kept thwacking that octopus in the face. Anyways, so the presence of reflective objects, preferably mirrors, are a must. This object will personally go out and find any reflective object if it is not able to be held by a living being. Its methods of travel include rolling and being carried. The speeds at which it rolls are immeasurable, as it goes so fast it can go through almost anything and will stop at nothing until it finds a mirror. It has never been seen harming a mirror, which indicates that this object either understands when it is coming near a mirror and begins to slow down, or it could stop on a dime, but that sounds very scary because it goes so fast.
And to step in with that too, it's that there is a reason why it searches out and needs to like touch a mirror-like object, and we'll get into that with all of these tests when we get into the testing portion of it.
Yeah, these are just technical details to give you guys a little bit of insight as to what we're talking about today, because all of this information you just heard is about an inanimate object. It's a disc that someone found on a beach somewhere, and it actually does all of these things, like rolls on its own and causes other things to happen. So I don't want to keep us any further from actually talking about the tests. So Ryan, would you like to read off the first test?
Okay, so we're going to get into the actual documentation on SCP-093, and I will be starting off with explaining the containment procedures. So the object class is Euclid, which is the category of how difficult it is to actually, contain one of these things, and the classes range from easy, or safe, quote unquote, which are ones that are not very difficult to contain. You can basically just let it walk around. If it's a sentient being, it can walk around and you don't have to worry about it. This one is Euclid. Euclid is a more difficult one to contain, but you can still do it with enough either manpower or resources. And the Keter class, which is one that we'll probably get into soon because they're some of the most interesting ones, where it's almost impossible to actually keep them contained, because whether they're too smart to be held captive, basically, or they're just way too dangerous to be held captive. So, special containment procedures. See testing document SCP-093-T1, which is a test for outline of testing conditions. SCP-093 must remain on a mirror at all times and under video surveillance. Admittance into the area of SCP-093's containment must be authorized only with proper video recording and subject retrieval procedures in place. Any attempt to use SCP-093 outside of an approved test will be dealt with severely, up to and including termination, whether that just be you getting your, working papers and sent on your way, or termination as in the literal standpoint. Because from everything that I've seen so far with it is that it's kind of a lifelong job. Once you know about these things, you kind of cannot be let back out into the world. So, description. SCP-093 is a primarily red disc carved from a stone composite resembling cinnabar, with circular engravings and unknown symbols carved at a 0.5 centimeter depth around the entire object. Deeper cuts are present on SCP-093 with a depth of 1 to 1.5 centimeters. This is basically just describing the size of it, so you can kind of see it would fit inside a normal person's palm. It fits comfortably in most palms without abrasion, even though it's cinnabar is a very porous substance, isn't it? Like a porous rock.
Yeah, like
almost like a sandstone-ish kind. I would thought.
Like some of those kinds of stone that are very what's the word, like grainy?
Yes. Okay. That's what I thought. So. Yeah, I did a lot of research on trying to figure out what cinnabar was before this, but you know. Let's see. SCP-093 will change hue when held by a living individual, and that's where you had read about the whole living individual part. The colors taken by SCP-093 are still being researched to establish a link to the colors and the individual. Current belief, which isn't always truth, it's just what we believe so far, that the color changes depend upon the regrets carried by the holder, which we'll see different ones because each test is actually a different color to see what the differences and similarities are. If SCP-093 is removed from a mirror and not held by a person, it will seek out the nearest mirror-like surface. It has been observed to travel in the largest possible circle while rolling, building up phenomenal speeds. The mechanism of this acceleration is currently unknown. If an obstacle is between SCP-093 and the nearest mirror-like surface, it will use this momentum to punch through the obstacle and continue on its course at this speed. It will only stop when a mirror-like surface is contacted. Despite tremendous impact velocities, no damage will be dealt to SCP-093 or the mirror that it came into contact with. Additional notes, no records exist to clarify the nature of SCP-093's discovery or presence in the Foundation. See SCP-093-OD, I think that's original documentation. Since no records exist explaining the method of containment, a test procedure was initiated to establish why mirrors must be used to contain it. The results of SCP-093-T1, which is Test 1, led to the discovery of living beings holding SCP-093 being able to move through mirrors, and a series of tests in Test 2 to ascertain the destination reached through this travel. Okay, so with that, we're going to go into the first containment test, which was actually accidental. Testing of SCP-093 against conditions set forth for existing containment procedures to assess viability of continuing such containment, beginning with changing the type of mirror used as a position of rest. So using a mirrored surface, brass frame, retail grade mirror. So it'd basically be the kind of thing that you would find from a grocery store, like Walmart. SCP-093 rests without activity when placed on the mirror. This test alone removes the need for costly silver or wooden containment systems as a way of like letting it sit. And then they tested it on a standard grade table. So the SCP-093 turns upright and begins to roll across the table surface in one direction, making a U-turn and rolling to the other side, completing an oval shape and repeating this action until a mirror is brought into the vicinity of it, at which time SCP-093 rolls towards the mirror and lays flatways against it, so against it on its side, and it starts to slide towards the center of the mirror. It's also noted that despite the grainy feel of SCP-093, like as we were talking about, it does not mark the mirror in any fashion while moving across it, so it doesn't like leave any scuff marks, or it doesn't scratch it. This test is with two mirrors at either end of a standard grade table. SCP-093 gravitates toward the closer mirror regardless of orientation and makes no distinction between different types of mirrors, favoring a factor of distance above all else, so it moves towards whichever mirror is closest to it. If a mirror is held by a person and moved around, SCP-093 follows the mirror as it moves, gaining speed until a maximum velocity of redacted, because we're not cool enough to see just what velocity is for this object. At any velocity, the impact of SCP-093 against a mirrored surface results in no damage to either object. So at any velocity, no matter how fast it's moving, nothing happens to the mirror when it hits it. Even if it hits it at like to the point where you'd expect the mirror to break. So moving forward, there's also going to be a lot of redacted comments, so we're either going to say redacted or blank, It's probably going to be used interchangeably, but just so you know, it's something that on the documentation is blacked out. A person holding SCP-093 and placing it on a mirror if the test was this test was accidental. The result of one of the staff members tripping another one after some debate about who would be covering the lunch tab. As a result of the behavior, one of the researchers, it was discovered that that person that was holding SCP-093 and place it against the mirror will in fact move into the mirror. I believe with this one, it was the guy that was tripped was holding SCP-093 and his arm went through the mirror, not breaking it, but almost into another dimension sort of thing. They moved through it almost like it was a curtain, like, yeah, a portal basically. Let's see. And the addendum part. Containment testing discontinued after establishing that SCP-093 requires only a mirror to rest inert. Testing on human interaction with mirrors while holding SCP-093 was authorized by Dr. Blank. Now, this is one of the parts that there's a lot of conspiracy theories on, like, who some of these doctors are. There is an SCP that is a doctor. Or there's a recurring person in a lot of SCP documents of a guy named Dr. Bright. And there's a lot of people, maybe we can do an episode on Dr. Bright because it's actually pretty interesting.
Sure.
But he shows up in a lot of different ones, so people are maybe thinking that this was actually authorized by him. But that's not official. Who knows for sure? Okay, so this is the first actual mirror test. Subjects testing 093 must wear a Class 3 buckle harness strapped to the chest, attached to a tension pulley system allowing for 300 meters or upwards of 1,000 feet of movement. So basically you're attached to a pulley system that will allow you to go up to about 1,000 feet into a mirror. Additional spools may be added to extend movement if necessary. The clasps that are connecting these spools must be of high grade just in case so they don't break, and capable of withstanding applied force of 0.2 tons. Basically, that's just to make sure that because they're basically criminals that are taking these tests, you don't want a criminal with an object that is so unknown traveling into a different dimension kind of area and then just being left to their own devices, because who knows. A field kit containing the following should be standard class for all people that are testing SCP-093, which is a wrist-mounted light source with 3-hour lifespan, additional power sources providing up to 6 additional hours, 4 half-liter bottles of water, 4 MREs of any type, plus 2 plain granola bars. Chocolate chips are allowed. I guess. That one's always confused me whenever I read it.
They're criminals, Ryan. They should not be allowed to have fun. Not even chocolate chips.
No chocolate chips.
No.
1 standard issue Beretta 9mm firearm with 24 rounds of ammunition. This is one of the strange things that comes back and forth with the later on tests and stuff, because there's some redacted pieces which we'll get into. But just remember the whole 24 rounds of ammunition. It comes back up in a couple of different redacted ways. Also, making sure that the weapon is loaded. This is not to be issued until the subject has passed into the mirror using SCP-093 and should be given only under armed supervision, ensuring that the subject passes through entirely first. Because in some other SCP tests and stuff, there have been D-class individuals, which are basically people that are given to the Foundation from prisons under the assumption that maybe they'll get better sentences if they test for this Foundation, which is kind of a morally gray sort of thing. Because you don't want to give one of them a weapon while they're still inside the confines of the Foundation, not wherever this testing is being taken place, because there's been times where a D-class individual has terminated the people that had handed the firearm to them and then escaped, or tried to escape at least. They never made it, but
Oh, wow.
which is also another episode in and of itself, which would be what D-Class are, and then the 2 different teams that are dispatched as a way to help prevent any further things like that, which goes into a like an anti-terrorist organization kind of group that are sent into the worst of the worst situations. And then there's the Nine-Tailed Fox, which are like the SWAT team of SCP, I believe they are. The weapon is to be requisitioned first upon subject's return, so given back, and subject to be made aware of this before leaving the line of sight within the mirror. And to top it all off is 1 standard issue field knife. The subject is not to be made aware of this item and must find it on his or her own within the kit. Yeah, that's a safety protocol, because the knife could be used before they get out there. So, or the knife could also be used if they know that there's a knife. They'll go through, then they'll just like cut that tether cable and then go off on their own or something if they wanted to. Foreshadowing, somebody tried.
Oh no.
The subject must also be attached to a video system with a camera mounted on the subject's head or shoulders. The video device should be cable based and allow for the same length of travel as the return system, so the pulley has a almost like how the HTC Vive has like the multitude of cables all wrapped into one. Wireless cameras have been shown to get mixed results if used, and should only be used in testing conditions where 093 is a currently known color, just so there's no like there's nothing that can be led to a faulty video system where it's like we don't know if this specific thing that is happening could be from the camera system and not the SCP itself. During testing, the color must be recorded, as well as any history of the subject in terms of their incarceration, to identify how SCP-093 determines the color of which to assume. A link appears to be connected to guilt or a lack thereof in the subject's psyche. The attached test results should be read in order. So we're going to go through, me read one, Nancy reads one. We're going to go through the 5 different tests that have been recorded. There is a recovered materials thing, which we won't go through that because that's a fairly long one as well, and this is already going to be a very long thing, but I want to leave this open to, if you want to hear about the recovered materials, we can do an extra episode on that in the near future. But for right now, I will start us in on the blue test. Okay, so test 1 is mirror test 1 blue. Subject is D20384, male, 34 years of age, strong physique. Basically all the subjects that are being, the classification of them, the letter, like the D letter that was part of it, is what class subject they are. D class are kind of like, for lack of a better term, they're kind of expendable assets to the Foundation. Usually criminals, they're kind of the people, it's like instead of getting the death penalty or whatever, they are subjected to testing things for the Foundation, because if anything bad happens to them, they're kind of a bad person to begin with. So, like I said, morally gray area when it comes to these things. And then the number is just basically their identification number. So, subject's background shows instances of murder, attempted suicide. So that right there can kind of be a link where like suicidal thoughts or anything like that could be a regret that would cause the object to turn blue. Subject is cooperative in all steps of this testing. Subject entered the provided mirror while holding SCP-093, which emitted a blue color. Outside technicians who are watching on the cameras observed that the mirror retained a true reflection, so it did still look like a mirror until the subject had completely passed into it. Once the subject was fully immersed inside the mirror and no longer visible, the mirror changed to looking like an outdoor landscape, which is basically where that person was teleported to. So it's kind of a video cam. You kind of get to see the world that was just passed into. So at that time, the view changed to an outdoor landscape heavily tinged in blue, which is another link where the mirror takes on the color of whatever the object's color is. The video feed follows in attached to media. So this is basically going to be a description of, this is going to be a report written down of everything that was seen through the video footage. So, starting in on that, the camera activates, flickers to view, subject is looking out over the same field reported by technicians that are looking at the mirror. Looks like typical lowland plains, everything has a heavy blue tinge to them, overlapping the normal colors. No discernible landmarks are visible as subject pans view left to right, only grass, weeds, a breeze that's moving the taller grass, no trees, no living beings are visible. Subject moves forward as instructed, traveling for approximately 500 steps before something becomes visible. A patch of land up ahead is barren, and grass can be seen dying as subject approaches it. So I'm guessing that as you're seeing this person walking towards it, you're actually watching the grass die around him, which is strange. Approximately 300 steps forward, subject is standing before a hole in the ground. The hole has been dug using unknown tools of primitive origin. The pulley system is engaged and the camera suffers a light shudder. Subject is instructed to enter the hole and after mild protesting agrees to do so. There is no apparent method of descent such as a ladder or rope, so the subject relies entirely on his own hands and a pulley system to slow his descent. Approximately 100 meters of cable is used before a bottom is reached, so he's about a third of the way down of his cable system. Subject moves forward with assistance of light source. Asked about the blue tinge, subject expresses confusion and says there is no such tinge from his perspective and never was. Light is visible down the passage and 150 meters of cable has now been used. Off camera, a sound is recorded of the firearm being prepared. When questioned about these actions, subject states justified precautions and moves forward. The tunnel turns from bare dirt to a concrete enclosure. Subject complains of a stench. The light source is revealed to be ceiling light fixtures, a series of which with less than a quarter broken while the others still function. A series of 6 doors, 3 to a side, span before the camera view with a 7th door visible at the end of the corridor that has been blocked by what looks like generic metal shelving debris. Debris shows signs of rusting and is typical retail store units suggesting other human presences. Subject is requested to try the doors in whatever order he chooses. Subject tries the first door on the right. The door is locked. It does not open, so it moves on to the second door. Second door is tried to open, but it does not budge. It is unlocked, but it's blocked by something. Closing the second door, the third door is tried. Same results as the first. Going up the other side, the third door does open fully and light is bright inside the room. Portable light switched off at this time as subject pans the camera to inspect the room. The room is bare. There's no contents, but the walls are filthy. Subject states material on the walls is not dirt, but he can't really identify it. Seems to resemble melted plastic, but is brown in color rather than black. The door is closed, and the second door on the left-hand side has no handle. It does not move when pushed, and the hole where the handle is plugged by an unknown material. All doors are shaped in such a way that nothing can visibly escape from the sides, And space for movement is too thin to look through even at a ground level, so underneath the door you really can't even look through. The first door on the left is locked, but part of a key is present in the lock, but it stems to the ridges and the back of it has been broken off. With effort, the subject manipulates the key to open the door and immediately begins coughing and complaining of a foul stench. Walls of the room are clean, as is the floor. The ceilings are coated in the same strange brown material as the third room, which that's going to be a thing that's going to constantly be in these. In this room, there is a makeshift cot made from aged blankets with a pillow, a wooden crate containing open boxes of what appears to be foodstuffs. Language appears on the video as squiggles, however the subject states that they simply just read cereal, so the person that's inside the mirror can read things that people that are looking on the video recording cannot make out what it says.
Ooh.
A second crate in the room contains what appears to be empty water bottles that have been dried out. A book lays next to one of the cots, closed, no title or identifying marks on it. On the wall is what appears to be clipped articles, but language cannot be read. Subject is asked to remove the clippings for retrieval. All articles but one crumble at the touch due to age. The intact article is put in the field sample container and seems the most recent compared to the others. He is asked to investigate the book. The subject begins to move toward it. Audio on the tape goes strange and a very high-pitched screeching noise like grinding metal dominates all communication for 3.5 seconds. The subject has still not touched the book, and when the noise stops, the subject asks Control to repeat what their request was. Control says that there were no requests being made during that time because they had to take the headsets off because of the noise. The subject is advised to leave the room and notes that the door has begun closing slowly on its own, and if left alone, it will close. The subject is advised to leave the door alone and investigate the door on the right. Yeah, just ignore the door that is closing on its own when you're in a weird place. So, careful review of the following 10 seconds of tape shows that as the camera pans, a figure is visible at the end of the tunnel where the 7th door is. The door is not only enough for a face to be seen through a crack just before the door slightly closes, but no details can be seen. Subject investigates the second door on the right with no mention of anything seen out of the ordinary. This door, when pushed against, moves, but after repeating bashings, it moves enough to view inside at a small angle. A corkboard is visible with more articles attached to it. The top of a box of cereal can be seen on the floor, and what appears to be a hand laying palm up. So just a hand, nothing attached to it. The subject closes the door, thinks nothing out of the ordinary, pans the camera past door 7, which remains closed. So door 7 was the one that had the figure inside of it. Seeing nowhere else to explore, the subject is requested to return. Subject poses no protest. Well, of course, he just saw a disfigured hand, door closing on its own, weird stenches, weird sounds, and weird looking, materials, so of course you're not gonna protest. And he complains of an ever-increasing stench as he's coming back. As the subject returns back down the tunnel, his camera feed does not change or show any anomalies, but Control reports a sudden surge in cable movement. So the pulley system pulled an additional 100 meters of cable through the mirror before going slack and then tightening up again. Because if the subject is moving back, it should not be going taut like that. Video feed shows subject ascending tunnel slowly while Control attempts to verify the integrity of the pulley system. Subject requested to stop his ascent, but states that he is not climbing. The rope is pulling him up. Panic sets in on both sides as the subject is being informed to ready his firearm. So what do you think so far?
I'm scared.
Upon reaching the top of the hole, nothing is visible on the camera, and subject reports nothing as changing in the landscape or anything like that. He then begins to his return trip following the path of the cable, traveling for approximately 900 steps. Subject asks how much cable he has used. Control admits they are unsure due to the complications, but subject traveled in a straight line to reach the hole, so it should be a straight line back. Subject becomes concerned when he states that the more cable is visible now, moving at a 90-degree angle away from the point in the ground. Subject pans camera around full circle slowly. On film behind the subject, a crowd of 37 countable figures stands silently. Features are unidentifiable, and they're lacking the blue tinge that is everywhere else in the landscape. Panic breaks in control again, but the subject notes the only oddity is just being the cable having a weird angled path. Subject tugs his end of the cable, which is taut and does not move. Control begins to reel in the pulley system and slack rapidly winds back. Watching the angled cable movement can be seen as grass is disturbed further down the angled portion from the reeling in. Then the line vibrates as it meets resistance and emits a twang from the recoil. Subject's camera pans back along the length of the cable, which is now appearing to slowly be allowing more slack, before suddenly all slack is returned and the pulley system begins pulling again. Control requests subject to return following the cable path, and screams are caught on the audio with panic from the subject. 5 shots are fired as the subject aims a pistol at something not visible on the camera. Control reports being able to see subject returning toward point of the origin, while camera shows the wire disappearing into a point floating in the air. As the subject passes this point, all cable is now in the pulley system, and the camera films only the floor. Control reports that the mirror took approximately 5 seconds to return to a reflection, and SCP-093 remained blue in color until 1 hour after being recovered from the subject. A vile-smelling fluid was present on the subject's clothes around his hands when the firearm was recovered. This fluid dried quickly and was deemed insignificant of study due to lack of a quality sample. Control personnel monitoring the mirror state that having a massive human being crawling on the ground easily 50 times the size of a normal person with no facial features and a very short arm reach, pulling itself toward the mirror before returned to the reflection. Due to the proximity, fine details cannot be made out, but at least one observer noted that the being appeared to have been shot from the marks in the otherwise smooth, featureless face. Field test kit was recovered from the subject containing a newspaper article that reads, "Data expunged," and was filed as item data expunged. So that was the blue test. And do you want to go through the green test after? Well, actually, what did you think of it?
That was terrifying.
Especially the 50 times the size of a normal person with no lower half and short, also long arms.
Yeah, Mr. Short Arm Longs.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was just so creepy. And the thing that, okay, so when I was growing up, we always would tell my mom that our bathroom was haunted in our house. And so what my mom would do, which is funny because now she's afraid of it, could have to have it locked up, is that she would go into our bathroom and peek out at us when it was dark in there, but would not, like, we would say, "Okay, Mom, stop," but she would keep, like, moving the door and not answer us.
Was it a way of trying to scare you guys?
Yes, and it did scare us because we were children.
Yeah, of course.
And the house was obviously already haunted. And so that part that you read there just brought back all of those memories.
Oh no, I bet.
So moving on, I am about to read Mirror Test 2, color green. The last one was blue, I believe.
Yes. I love how I did blue and you're doing green, and it's the other person's, like, favorite colors-ish.
Oh, I forgot about that. I sometimes forget my own favorite colors.
Well, you're actually a lot like me when it comes to that, because sometimes my favorite, like, of course I have that one favorite color, which is always going to be green for obvious purpose. Yeah. But I mean, like, sometimes I flip-flop on other ones, you know? Sometimes it's white, sometimes it's black, sometimes it's orange, sometimes it's blue. You do the same thing. What are you like mouthing? Nathan's like mouthing something as I'm talking like that.
There's a song on TikTok where it says, there's I could be blue, I could be yellow, and like they just start naming this.
Okay, yeah.
So this song, you started naming colors, and then my brain started singing this song. Sorry. Okay, serious voice. So we are going to be talking about mirror test 2, color green. Subject is D54493. Female, 23 years of age, average physique. Subject's background shows instance of grand theft auto and second-degree murder of 2 children during escape with vehicle. Subject is cooperative in all steps of testing. Subject entered the provided mirror while holding SCP-093, which emitted a green color. Outside technicians observed that the mirror retained a true reflection until subject had completely passed into it, at which time the view changed to a farming landscape, heavily tinged in green, similar to the first test. Video feed follows in attached media. Camera activates, flickers to view. Subject is looking out over the same farmland reported by technicians. All greens through the video feed are deeper and green tinge overlays the normal colors of objects similar to the blue tinge in test number 1. No landmarks from test 1 are discernible as subject pans camera over area. Present is a field, long abandoned, in the middle of which stands the remains of a scarecrow of unknown design. Fragments left are rotted and torn. Nothing grows in the tilled land. A farmhouse is visible to the right of the field, large, 2 stories. A basement shelter entrance is visible at one end. Subject prepares her sidearm immediately and is asked by control to relax before proceeding, her heavy breathing dominating the audio feed.
So they're basically telling her, please calm down, we can't hear anything else except for your breathing.
Subject takes a few minutes and announces that she's fine, then proceeds as directed to walk the perimeter of the farmhouse. Children's bicycles, 2, a boy's and a girl's, lay against the house near the shelter doors. One of the doors to the shelter lay in the grass, torn from the entrance as evidenced by splintering wood. On the stairs lay clothes, arranged in a descending order, shoes to shirt going down them, belonging to a boy. Subject begins screaming at Control, asking if this is some sort of sick joke. Control assures her that they have never seen this environment either, and to please calm down. Subject takes several minutes to regain herself before continuing. It is unknown if SCP-093 is linking the subject's past with her landscape. After several minutes, subject agrees to continue. Communication to the subject is muted, and conversation of Control making commentary about subject's jittery attitude make up audio for 1.5 minutes. Communication restored as subject reaches bottom of stairs. The cellar of the farmhouse is unremarkable and typical. Several wooden shelves line the far wall containing unidentified canned substances. Broken light fixtures sway gently from the support beams. Camera is panned across the basement slowly. No evidence of footprints are visible, and the basement can be assumed to have been abandoned for some time. Subject begins to comment about a stench. As subject pans the area, a metal hatch is visible in the ground, similar to a bulkhead on a submarine with a turn handle. Subject remarks that the smell is at its worst around the hatch, and the dirt around the hatch is noted as being clumped and clay-like. The handle of the hatch is old and the paint chipped. Subject coerced into turning the handle, which, when fully turned, opens the hatch. Subject begins coughing at the release of assumed old stale air. When camera is tilted to view down the hatch, it is a white concrete tunnel similar to the one found in the blue experiment, but in much better condition. Subject asked to descend the ladder and close the hatch behind her. After some convincing, subject agrees to descend, but does not close the hatch. Overlooked concerns about severing the pulley return system in doing so are acknowledged. Descent down the ladder and trip to the farmhouse has consumed approximately 53 meters of cable when bottom is reached. The inside of the hatch appears to be a bunker ill-suited to long-term use. It is spacious, about half the size of the actual cellar itself, containing 3 bunks, 1 for a couple and 2 for a single use. Several boxes of food similar to those found during blue marked as cereal, fill a waste container near the hatch bottom. On the beds are 2 skeletons, and on the floor is a third, lying next to which is a simple 6-shooter revolver containing no ammunition. 3 spent casings are across the floor near the gun. On the other side of this skeleton is a bound book in good condition. This is retrieved and placed into a field kit container upon request. The gun is left alone per request from Control. Subject examines more of the bunker, focusing on a desk where a newspaper has been cut and is in good condition. The clipped articles are recovered using a field kit container. Little else of interest to be brought back is in the bunker as the camera is panned around. Trash bags containing clothing, a few children's toys resembling popular 1950s era products are lined against the wall. Subject is requested to leave the bunker and then sharply asked to wait by a Control technician who directs the camera view to an area near the exiting doorway to the hatch. Closer inspection as subject moves in finds that a small area has been fitted with what appears to be an Ethernet jack, the cover of which has been forced slightly away from the wall by a strange amber-like substance. Subject refuses to touch or collect a sample, commenting that it stinks so bad that if they want it, they can come and get it themselves.
I love how Control declines.
Control declines and subject leaves bunker. As subject grips ladder to leave, the camera pans up for a moment, and at the top of the tunnel, a humanoid figure is seen peering down. Control asks the subject to confirm the figure. Subject states nothing is up there and begins to climb. Figure draws out of camera view after first rung is touched by subject, who ascends without incident. At the top of the tunnel, no other life is seen, nothing has been disturbed. Subject insists nothing was there and closes the hatch, then immediately vomits. Subject coughs and uses a supplied water bottle to gargle, then freezes and asks if Control is hearing that. Control reports no audio. Subject approaches cellar hatch cautiously with firearm drawn and lifts her head just enough so camera can view outside area. In the distance, approximately 700 meters from the farm, 2 massive humanoid beings are crawling across the landscape. The entities do not notice the subject, who remains quiet, but whose drawn sidearm is visibly trembling. Subject requested to remain still and silent as beings move. They are featureless, facing at an angle, moving across the field of vision, so the faces are only visible for a few moments. During this time, it is clear they have no facial features. The arms they use to drag themselves are short at times and long at others, stretching out to varying lengths each time they move. There is no rear area to the beings. All bodily design appears to end at the torso. The 2 creatures take approximately 10 minutes to disappear into the distance before the subject begins to panic and begs to return. Request declined. Subject instructed to enter the home from the cellar and not to leave the home under any circumstances. The first floor is entered through a hatch in the ceiling/floor that opens with rusty creaks that cause subject to pause for 37 seconds before continuing upward and entering a kitchen. A heavy layer of dust coats all items in the kitchen. The refrigerator is left open. All food is spoiled. Adjacent the kitchen is a living area that subject enters slowly. There is a recliner, a couch, and a television, all of 1950s style design. In the recliner is a laptop whose case also resembles the 1950s decor and is coated in heavy dust. Opening the laptop reveals the last moments of its operating system, Faithful OS, leaving a standby mode and immediately shutting off. Laptop has no external power source and will not power back on. When asked to recover laptop, it brings the cushion of the recliner with it. The 2 stuck together. Subject advised to leave laptop where it is. The inside door leaving the home is nailed shut with thick wood planks. No attempt made to interact with these. Camera view pans to staircase leading upstairs. Subject ascends the stairs without being asked, and the stairs remain silent to control's surprise. When the subject reaches the top of the stairs, a hallway with 2 doors is viewed, one on each side. And at the end of the hall, a dumbwaiter is inlaid into the wall. Subject opens door on left on her own, which opens to a master bedroom. The bed is neatly made, but the wardrobe next to it is thrown open and the clothes are everywhere on the floor. Subject finds laid out on bed several pieces of jewelry and is informed to leave them. Subject begins to protest, then comments that they stink and leaves them alone. Promptly leaving room. Subject asked to open second door. The second door opens and gives a view of a shared children's bedroom, obviously boy and girl, given the types of toys and clothes scattered on the floor. There's also a window which subject approaches and wipes with a curtain to clear dust. Subject requested to move camera to window and does so. The farmland is visible and approximately 40 kilometers from it at best guess, a city. As the camera starts to draw back, it pans down and films the area around the house. Approximately 300 figures, similar to those from the footage captured during Blue Test, are visible around the home, all staring up. Subject asked to confirm figures, but states nothing is there. Subject requested to return and quickly agrees. Departure from the house is uneventful. Police system shows no erratic behavior. As subject returns to point of pulley's wire's origins, a loud groaning noise causes the picture to reverberate. Technicians at control report they were also able to hear the noise and experienced the vibration. Subject returns through point of origin without investigation and mirror returns to reflective surface. SCP-093 relinquished. Video ends. Returned newspaper fragments filed as redacted. Well, that was terrifying, first of all. Before I say anything else, oh my gosh.
I love the first 2 tests, and they only get better from here.
Oh no. Better. Does better mean scarier?
At points, and also just like you start to fill in the blanks of like some puzzle pieces to this as well.
Okay then, well, I see that we're almost at an hour, and I try to at least keep these episodes under an hour because I don't want everyone just spending their whole day listening to this.
As much as we'd want you to, it's also something that would be difficult for us to maintain.
Yeah, so we are so thankful that you all hung out with us today. We are going to be making a second part to this now that we have more things to read about, and in the second part we will be able to read what we weren't able to read earlier.
So we will continue on with the next 3 tests because we got the basics down, then we got the first 2 tests. So we figured we could probably split this into 3 and 3. So we'll have the next 3 tests at the next episode.
Yep. And along with those 3 tests, we will have commentary on our own research that we did while watching videos and reading all of these tests.
There will be a little bit more commentary with the next one. I really wanted Nancy to go into this without knowing much about it, and she had to keep kind of like stopping herself because she was starting to react as she read, which is what I wanted.
I may or may not have had to delete some parts of this because I ended up screaming. So just know that I was there with you listening to all this. It was terrifying, and I may have nightmares tonight.
Also, we do apologize for the way it sounds like we were talking as we were reading this, and it didn't sound as fluid. It's just that's the way it's written. We tried to read it as the way that it was wrote out. I
didn't want to be rude, but yes, there are some points where punctuation was heavily needed for me personally.
And it's wrote as a way of like how a research document would have been, where it's like the ifs, ands, buts, things like that are all kind of not put on there because it's just kind of like a simplified document. So I can understand it.
Yeah, we're doing our best because I'm reading this for the first time ever, and for me it does not have the amount of punctuation I would need to read this correctly, but that's just me.
I just wanted to be able to let people know that so they're not like, what's wrong with you guys when you read this?
Once again, thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you all again for part 2 of this. we are very excited to continue with talking about the tests and everything about this because this is really interesting. So we hope you join us with SCP-093 down here below the forest floor. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.